Okay, so this is actually the second or third time that I've done a podcast with Caidy Brasure, and you're going to know why I continue to ask her back, because she's incredible, and she's also a graduate of one of our locations, Palmetto School of Great Lakes in Port Huron, Michigan. So I'm like a proud school owner. And so whenever I have my graduates, especially that are doing amazing things like you, Caidy, I cannot wait to brag to everybody and let them know, like, look at Caidy Brasure. So thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I always love chatting with you, and I always say this, but I always appreciate the connection that we've remained through the years. I've been graduated for almost 14 years now, and so I always appreciate our connection. And so coming back is a joy. So thank you for having me.
Oh man, you're one of those graduates that you just never forget. And, you know, those of my students that are listening to this, graduates, you know, it truly is not about being remembered. It's about never being forgotten. And, you know, Robert Croming says that all the time. And it's something that I truly believe, like you're unforgettable because you're so kind. And all you want to do is just give back and help people. So thank you for always being that visionary. You never change. And I just think that's absolutely incredible. Your heart, your beautiful heart. And I think you're in business for the right reasons, and which I do want to talk about that, because I think that's so important, you know, especially if we talk to future professionals, graduates, people are kind of navigating themselves throughout to figure out, you know, what should I do? And so I want to introduce Caidy. So she's a salon owner. She's a formal hair design and intricate braiding stylist and educator. She's also certified as a hair extension specialist, and she's a bridal and editorial makeup artist. And you've got to follow Caidy, like right now. Go to her Instagram page. Caidy, what's your Instagram page?
It is Caidy Create.
Caidy Create. So go to Caidy Create. She pops up on mine all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she did not just do that. It's art, you guys. It's not hair, it is art. Like it is hair, but it's art. You've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. And so I was on the phone with Caidy not too long ago, getting advice from her as a salon owner. We're both fellow salon owners in Michigan. And so just getting advice from her, because I really look up to Caidy as well as a business owner. And I said to her, I said, we should have been recording this whole conversation. Basically, we're just on the phone right now, and you're listening to our conversation, because this is what a phone conversation would sound like with Caidy. But like she said, she graduated 14 years ago, but she's also has been the lead hairstylist for New York Fashion Week, which so many hairstylists want to do that. And so I want you to talk about that. Part of the hair team for Miami Swim Week, providing hair for Miss Michigan Pageant. The one thing, you won a lot of awards. You should see the list here, you guys. But the one thing that I really took notice with you was like, okay, we got to have her start teaching our students in our elementary schools. And so it was that you won the 2022 and 2021 Intricate Braiding Award for the Behind the Chair One Shot Hair Awards, the largest global hair competition. And I was like, why are we not having her come in and teach our students? And so I'm so excited, because you have a class coming up here real soon for us, which I'm super excited about. Caidy, first of all, tell everyone kind of like your story is why you decided to, you know, really specialize in braiding, because, you know, you started out with bridal hair and braiding. Kind of talk about that, because a lot of our students will say, I don't know what I want to specialize in. I just want to do everything. So what kind of for you?
So I think when you're in cosmetology school, there's so many avenues that you can take, but I don't think you always realize how many until you're either getting out of school or you've had enough educators come in to kind of share their experiences. I think when you're in school, it focuses on what's going to be on your state boards. So hair coloring and cutting and perms and those type of things. But there's other avenues to kind of explore. And because hairstyling wasn't really something that was on state boards, it wasn't gone over a super ton in school. And we did have educators that came in for it, and the learning leader did teach us, but it wasn't, you know, really dove into like hair coloring was, for an example. And so I just was so interested in kind of learning more about this. And prior to even joining cosmetology school, I had always had a love for styling and for braiding. It's always been my passion since I was a young kid. And I would do hairstyling and braiding for the cheerleading squad, for different pageants for my friends that were in, the football players. I would actually braid their hair before their football games and, basketball games and all of that. And so I've always had like a huge passion for this. And so when I was in school and I had expressed that I wanted to be a braiding and styling specialist, it was not necessarily looked down upon, but it definitely didn't get others inspired. And I was actually kind of laughed at. And they're like, why would you come to school to do this? Like, you're not going to make it. As that, no one becomes a braiding and styling specialist and makes a living off of that. They're like, you have to work behind the chair and do coloring and do cutting. And although those are great services, that's just not where my heart was. And I just knew that as I was doing hair cutting and coloring, even years after leaving the salon, I'm like, okay, or the school, I'm like, okay, I should be more passionate about this now, about these specific services. And I just wasn't. And I just kind of came to terms to realize that if this is something that I really wanted to do, then I can do it. And if someone else didn't, believe in that, or if they had an opinion in regards to that, they're not in the driver's seat. I am. So I know where my journey is leading me. I know the avenue that I'm taking. And basically, I just kind of took all of those steps to get there. And so in leaving cosmetology school, I wanted to focus more on bridal hair and makeup. The salon that I was at didn't really offer a lot of that. So I transitioned into my own space, where I started doing a lot of weddings, a lot of photo shoots, a lot of braiding for, session shoots and things like that. And so that was kind of the start of it. And the more I was doing it, the more I just felt fulfilled. And I'm like, okay, this is like really what I need to be doing and really what I need to be focusing on. And then shortly after, I had come to terms that a lot of other professionals within the industry also didn't really have education available to them. And when I was actually building my team, I quickly learned that people either loved doing updos and braids or they hated them. And I think that went back to cosmetology school because it wasn't really gone over, super crazy in depth. And so I had a lot of people reach out that wanted to get education from me. And I thought I would love to kind of give back to my industry because I didn't really have that light when I was in school to kind of be like, okay, this is who I'm going to look up to. And of course, there were different educators that came in that certainly helped, but I wanted to kind of give back more. And so that's really what kind of stemmed the upcoming, training that I'm going to be doing at your school, which I'm so excited about. I've had so many people sign up. Again, just so that I can kind of give it back to the community and really just kind of share my passion with them in hopes that my experience and journey and, artistry will help inspire them to follow their own path too.
So big, so big. And you're right. It's either people are really into it or really not into it, which is so awesome. And by giving people the opportunity, like you said, while they're in cosmetology school to see, well, maybe I could be into this. And so you said a couple of things really big that I really want to dig a little deeper into. So you said you were laughed at. And because I know that we have, some of our stylists, some of our students, and that aren't getting a lot of support from at home. And so can you talk about that? Like, how did you persist beyond the laughter?
So in the very beginning, because I'm sure there's someone listening to this that can relate, I originally went to school to become a sports writer. I originally didn't come to school to do cosmetology. Unfortunately, although my family is extremely supportive right now, my parents were against it. At first, they didn't think that this is something I could make a career in. And, as a parent, I'm sure you just want your kids to be successful and have an income and be able to take care of themselves. And I don't think they really understood what I wanted to do. And I remember going home and being like, okay, this is what I can do with cosmetology school. This is how much money I can make one day. Like, I'll be okay. Like, this is what is going to fulfill me. And slowly they came around to understanding that this was my passion. But I think the biggest thing that you'll realize, and the more successful you'll get, you'll realize this more, is that the higher you get or the more you are reaching that goal, the less support you're going to receive. And you would think that it would be the opposite, but it's almost like certain people will support in the very beginning. And then as you get higher and higher and higher, they're like, oh, well, they have this, or they have that, or they don't need help with this. When really, it's not that you're kind of looking for praise, but you're just, you want to have that support though, And so I think that's a big hurdle to overcome, is that a lot of the times you're supporting yourself, you're cheering for yourself, and you're celebrating your own victories, and you're going through your own triumphs alone. And so that's something to really kind of accept, unfortunately. It's just kind of learning that, that the path to success, it's not always going to be with someone by your side. Sometimes it is alone, or maybe you do have, unfortunately, people kind of drop off along the way. And so that was kind of the start of it. And then when I was in cosmetology school and I was expressing like, I want to be a braiding and styling specialist. And I remember we would do like mini classes and I would try to help teach them, or we had like the hair show that we did and I did some crazy looks for it. If you were like, that's like really wild, like, are you sure that's what you want to like focus on? Like, that seems crazy. And I'm like, I love this. Like, if I have a big hair and stuff coming out of it, like, I am like so passionate about it. And and so I think just because my journey wasn't their journey, it was a little hard for some people to understand. And I think now, again, that I've been kind of out of cosmetology school, I've been doing this for a long time now. Definitely those people have come around and have kind of seen. But in the start, it was hard. It was really hard to kind of be like, okay, even though I don't have this crazy support system, I'm going to do this anyways. So you really have to just believe in yourself, is what it comes down to.
I know we could do a whole podcast just on believing in yourself.
Yes.
And this is amazing because you and I are very similar in that aspect. It took a long time for me to believe in myself. And so that's why as a business owner, the reason why I wanted to be a business owner was I wanted to believe in people that didn't believe in themselves. And I wanted to show them like what's possible for them. And because I want to jump into that, because you said you were at a salon that didn't offer that type of service. And I think we're no longer in the day as a business owner of saying, okay, this is how we have always done it, so it's how we're always going to do it. We have to remain flexible and adaptable and be able to help people achieve their dreams. And so how can you help salon owners, or what would you want to say to salon owners right now, salon leaders, to not be so stuck in their ways, if you will?
I would say it really comes down to what your artists are passionate about. And I believe that what they're passionate about is going to transpire through their work. And if someone is not passionate about it, it's not going to come out super great. I do not consider myself a hair colorist. I know how to color hair, but these crazy blended, balayage, like, no, not me. It's just not what I'm passionate about. And so I think the salon that I was at, I had to do coloring. And they offered bridal, but it was definitely on a smaller scale where I was doing them once in a while, whereas I wanted to do them all the time because that is what I was really passionate about. And so in doing so many colors and so many cuttings, I actually got to a point where I had gone to my salon owner and I'm like, have you ever thought that you weren't passionate about this anymore? Have you ever wanted to stop doing this? And I realized at that moment that I have to make a change because my passion cup is draining quick. And if this is an industry that I want to stay in, I need to make a shift and figure out what avenue I really want to go down. And although I was in cosmetology school and wanted to do braiding and, styling, I think that I got a little rerouted because when somebody starts to tell you no so often, sometimes you start to believe it. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I have to do coloring and cutting also to, have an income or to get more clientele. And so that's kind of the biggest thing, for salon leaders and owners is kind of speak with your team and kind of learn what is it that they're passionate about and what avenues do they want to pursue, and then help them pursue those avenues. And I think another thing too is a lot of people just don't know where to start, and really just kind of asking questions and reaching out to those that you are inspired by. I even have quarterly meetings with my team that are individual, and then we have monthly meetings and we also have mini meetings. So we have a lot of connection time to make sure we are 100% always on the same page. And I always have a very much an open door policy. And I'm like, even though we have a meeting next week, if you have something this week, come to me this week, never put anything off because, we can always change something in advance. And so really kind of taking that time to find out, where they're at in their own journey. And just kind of seeing what you can do to help them. And in some of those trainings, I will say meetings, I will say I've learned that some of them are a little nervous to reach out to maybe some individuals on Instagram that might have a big following, but maybe they do really great hair colors or hair cuttings and they just want to kind of pick their brain. And my advice is just to do it, because the worst thing that's going to happen is someone's going to not respond or say no. And if anything, you're at the same point that you're at now, which is still probably not a bad point to be in, but at least you put yourself out there and at least you took that step forward for yourself. So you never know what could happen when you go kind of start asking those questions.
Yeah, so big. We're doing actually a master class right now. We call it a collab of Good Leaders Ask
Okay.
Great Questions. And so how to go in and be super curious, and successful people want to help people.
Yeah,
And if they say
absolutely.
no, then most likely they're not successful yet, right?
Mhm.
And that's okay. So just move it along and go to somebody
Yeah.
else. And so speaking of which, and I do send a lot of people to you, I have maybe
Mhm.
a handful of my graduates, Caidy, that I send my students to talk to, and like, you got to talk to Caidy. Have you heard of Caidy Brasure? And follow her right now. And I have the whole class, get on your Instagram right then and there. And so talk to them about if they want to be a part of eventually of the New York Fashion Week. And I've known that we've had some students do that as well too, through connections that they've had with local hairdressers and things like that. What advice would you give, a brand new person that's in the industry to be able to get involved with that?
So first and foremost, no dream is too big. I think that a lot of times we get stuck in our own way thinking that I want to do Fashion Week, but it's not an obtainable goal. Everything is an obtainable goal. If you want it, you can have it. It just depends on how hard you want to work for it. And so when I first became more interested in becoming part of Fashion Week, I instantly was like, okay, I need to somehow join a team that does hair and makeup to provide for the designers. And I need to find out where those teams are. And so I really just started Googling, and I literally blew up people's emails and phone calls. I mean, the team that I eventually got on, someone had came to her and said, "How did you find Caidy? She's so great." And she said in front of me, she said, "Caidy literally stalked me. Like,
Yeah.
she called me and emailed me multiple times until I said that she could be on the team." She's like, "I didn't even have a place for her on the team." And she's like, "But she was so persistent and she was sending her work and said that she would be an asset and I needed to have her." And she's like, "So I finally was like, okay, obviously I need to have this girl on my team." And that's how it happened. And then I joined this team and I worked with them a couple shows, and then eventually became the hair lead for New York Fashion Week last year. And so again, it's really just putting yourself out there. And I know that it sounds crazy to like stalk these people and to, email them a bunch, but people like that. And as a business owner, when I have someone that comes to me that wants to come and work as part of my team, I want you to blow me up. I want you to let me know that, like, no, I need to hire you. You are an asset. You have something of value. And also a really big thing too is when you're reaching out for these different companies, even if it's not Fashion Week, if it's a brand you want to work for, or a magazine or whomever, know whatever it is that you're reaching out to. Don't just reach out to them, because they're going to ask you eventually why you want to be part of that team. Like, what drew you to that magazine or that brand or that Fashion Week? And you have to have the response, and the response has to go back to who they are. So kind of learn about who that brand is and what they represent, because that also will let you know if you actually want to be part of this brand. Maybe you really want to be part of Fashion Week, but you don't really care for what this brand stands for. So that's kind of a big thing too, is really going into it, educating yourself so that you're very much prepared for that interview, and everything to come with it. And that will just kind of help you, again, just have a better understanding on what you're kind of getting involved with and if it's the right fit for them and yourself.
Yeah, that's huge. And yeah, that's Stalk Visionaries is in my book, Be Amazing. So that's the first step to success. And it's so true. And that's what I've done. And until it's like, okay, we just can't keep saying no to Tina anymore, be persistent. And because especially if it's, someone's already have a set team. And so I kind of want to have you talk to the mentee right now, because I have a lot of people that will reach out to me and they want me to mentor them. However, I'm at the point of where, okay, I'm going to mentor this person, but not this person, so to speak, because there are too many levels below of where I'm at. So I want to get them a next level mentor. And so I'll refer them, but then I'll hear that they either never reached out to that next level mentor or they didn't follow through. And I'm like, you guys, you're destroying relationships here. A potential mentor actually asking you, calling you up someday, to that level. So can you talk about that? Like, talk to the mentee, how to be a great mentee.
Well, and I think there's two important things with this. One, no one is ever going to open a door for you like you'll open it for yourself. And I remember I learned in cosmetology school when Clay Ball came to school, and he was talking about when he was first starting to become a motivational speaker. And I loved Wren at the time, and I love him till this day. But he had expressed that he went backstage and he was trying to like speak at all these, places, and no one wanted him, and someone didn't show up, and he ended up speaking on stage because he's like, I'll do it, I'm right here. And so no one's going to open up that door like you will. And had he not have been in that place and moment, that opportunity might not have came up, and any opportunity after that might not have come up. So you really need to put yourself out there. And even if the door closes, I've been told no so many times. I've had so many things not work out in my favor. I've had so many contests I've entered that I haven't won. I've had so many people just flat out be like, you're not the professional for me. It's going to happen. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to know, and you're never going to evolve. And that's what this industry is. It's an evolving industry. And so you have to really kind of think about all of those things. And so if they're wanting any type of a mentor, which I have a, business coach myself, if you want to have any type of that coaching or mentorship, which is amazing, regardless of which, if you're just getting out of cosmetology school or in cosmetology school, or you're, like me, 14 years in your industry, you have to kind of put yourself out there and kind of make that a priority, and reach out to those individuals, because they have a long list themselves. They're not going to follow up on their list and say, these 5 people want to come and take a mentorship with me. It's up to you to reach out to them. You have to want it, and whatever you want, you'll get. But if you don't work towards it and you don't put yourself out there, then unfortunately, you're not going to have those opportunities. And then, same thing with that. There's so many opportunities that come in from meeting different people. I have met so many different professionals within this industry, and I keep all those doors open, because everything can lead somewhere else. I know that this is a very large industry, but it's also a very small industry. This is not an industry to burn bridges, because everybody kind of knows each other in a sense. And I don't even mean that locally, I mean that globally. And so there's times where, I'll go to One Shot Hair Awards and I meet people from different countries, and I'll see them year after year. And if I had a bad experience with them this year for whatever reason, they're going to remember that next year. Even though I'm some girl from Michigan and they're from, some other country far, far away, they're still going to remember that experience. And so it's just really important to kind of be mindful with all of that and those opportunities, and just understanding that this, yes, could lead somewhere else, so really being open with all of that, and really refraining from saying no. And I don't mean don't say no as a disrespect to yourself or to your time or anything like that, but really have an open mind and saying yes, because those opportunities can lead to so many different avenues. And I can't tell you how many times I've said yes when I've wanted to say no, and the most crazy, spectacular things have come from it. And so that's just like a huge thing to kind of keep in mind, is keeping as many doors open as you possibly can, and really creating those opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, that's huge. And, kind of talk about, to someone that has kind of like the habit of not showing up or quitting, right? And so let's talk about that, because I think that's important too, because I've had a lot of people that I've tried to mentor, or they wanted to work in our companies, and then they don't show up because, their dog's sick or whatever, and it's excuse after excuse after excuse. And it's like, you know what, that's not someone I need on my team, because they couldn't even show up the first time.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that, and how that's important to recognize that in yourself and do something about it, so you're not that type of mentee, so to speak.
So consistency is key with everything. If you work out once a month, you're not going to be in shape in 6 months.
Right.
You really have to kind of keep up with everything that it is what you want. And sometimes a goal or a dream can seem very overwhelming, and you're like, I don't know how to get to this point, so I'm just going to stop. And breaking that down can be a lot easier. But if you are wanting to commit to an event or to a mentorship or to any type of job, you have to show up for it, because if you don't show up for it, someone else is going to show up for it. And those experiences are remembered. So just like I said, if I go to One Shot Hair Awards and I have this experience with someone, they're going to remember it. It's the same thing with the mentorship. If you cancel all the time, or if you are showing up late, or if you're just really not, doing the homework that mentor is giving you, and they're like, okay, do A, B, and C, and then in our next class we're going to go over these things and see how that's progressed. If you're not doing those things, they're not going to continue to want to put that effort into you. And it really is kind of a what you give, you get. And so if you're putting in all of that effort and you're really showing up and you're like, okay, they really need to see these documents, or they really want to see these images, or they really want to see this next plan of action, really take notice of that, because they're not your mentor isn't doing it for them, they're doing it for you. So that mentor is taking that time and putting that aside towards you and putting that towards your future and what they can do to help you. And so this isn't something that they're like, oh, I really don't want to do this, like this is too early. This is something that they are really wanting to help you progress with. And so it really also kind of comes down to respect, and just kind of respect those time frames, and just kind of whatever it is that those mentors are trying to really help you with, because they do have all that experience and that knowledge, and really just kind of taking all of that into consideration, truthfully.
Yeah, that's so good. Respect your mentors so they respect you.
Mhm.
And that's so important, right? It's all built, trust is built on respect. And, that is one of the challenges that I hear from the salon owners that we're coaching, the salon leaders. And so Sean and I, with our next level salon leadership coaching, many of them, express like, we just can't find the right fit. So it's all about recruitment. Okay, on the team. And so really coming up with a good, solid system to be able to recruit. What do you do, and what advice do you give to salon owners to find the right fits to be a part of their salon team?
So we go through quite an interview process, because it's not even just them being a good fit for us, but it's also us being a good fit for them. And so we have phone interviews, we do in-person interviews, we actually have a model interview where they'll come in and they'll actually demonstrate whatever services they're wanting to do, so that we can see their technique in person. We also have a 30-day trial period where we kind of go through, kind of a program to see how they fit within our salon team, as far as the team members, and then also the services we provide, the layout of the salon, the clientele that we have. Every salon is truthfully so unique. And again, because this industry has evolved so much, it really allows you to be wholeheartedly who you want to be. And I think that's spectacular. And so really just kind of taking all those steps to kind of figure out who's going to be a right fit for you, and not rushing the process. I think rushing the process is a very quick recipe for a disaster, thinking that you just have to get someone, like you need a receptionist right now, or you need a business license right now for a different room that you're setting up, all of these different things we really want to kind of be mindful of, and really kind of do it in a slow progression, so that we're really taking consideration who we're bringing on. Me personally, I actually don't hire based on talent. I hire based on character. I'm a firm believer that you can teach someone how to do something, but I can't teach you to be a kind person. So if you're untrustworthy, or if you are having inappropriate conversations, or if you are showing up late, or if you're always wanting to leave early, or taking time off, or all of those different things, I want someone that has a good character first. And then if we need to work on hair cutting, we'll work on hair cutting. If we need to work on color, we'll work on color. All of those technical things that can be taught. You can evolve all of that. You can really perfect your craft in that aspect. But teaching someone, make sure you're on time, or make sure that you're not having these inappropriate conversations. Those are almost habits, and so that's something that I really truthfully look for is character wise.
Yeah, that's huge. Can you define a couple of those things? Because I think that's really important for people to hear, because the first step is being aware, because I've had so many people say, I don't understand why they didn't hire me. And it's like, of course, the salon owner isn't going to tell them, And so if you could kind of talk about, what does being untrustworthy look like to you? And also, what does inappropriate conversations look like to you?
So I've actually have had challenges in the past with both. And again, being a salon owner, it's very much a trial and error thing. It's taken me a long time to really get a group where I'm like, okay, this is my group. This is my like pack, And so as far as inappropriate conversations, you just want to be mindful of not only what you're saying to your client, but also who is kind of in the room with you, who are the other clients. And so just really kind of being mindful of the words that you're using, not swearing, not talking about getting drunk the night before with your friends, or some guy you just met and you just want to really be mindful, and, you want to have that conversation be about your client. Your client is there to relax. They're there to have an experience, and we want to create that experience for them. So just because maybe the hair color you did is amazing, it's their favorite hair color of all time, if they didn't enjoy that conversation with you, or if you made them feel a little uncomfortable, or maybe there's side conversations going on between other stylists, they're going to remember that. And it really comes back on experience. Same thing if you give someone a really great experience, so maybe they don't love their hair color, they still might come back to you because they love you. Like, they love their conversation. They love those heart to hearts that you have. They love that it's a super professional environment, and they always get a latte when they walk in. So excuse me. So it goes back to that as well too. So you really just want to kind of create that experience for them, and just make sure that you're just being mindful of those conversations, those little things that you're saying. And then as far as being trustworthy, I unfortunately have had issues where I actually had someone steal money from my drawer. Someone left the door open. And this is very early on when I was still learning things, but it does happen. And so it kind of, falls into those characteristics, really kind of learning about someone, who they are. And so that's why we have a 30-day grace period in the very beginning, where we can kind of see just more so of who they are. Obviously always check referrals when you can. I have security cameras up in my salon. We have to check out any type of cash that leaves the building at all times. Our drawer is always locked as far as like our cash register. So really kind of putting in those little things. And then also I always recommend having a handbook, for your team that goes over what's important to you. My handbook is about 8 pages long. And it gets longer and longer every time something happens, because as you have these experiences, good and bad, it allows you to kind of just reassess for the future. And so really kind of, when you're looking for someone, really kind of make a list on what's important to you. What's a priority? What do you want to make sure doesn't happen when you're not there? Think about if you're away for a weekend and someone's there, you want to make sure that it's going to be ran a certain way. And so really hire as slow as you can, as hard as that can be sometimes, just to make sure that who you're bringing onto your team, they're going to be a good indication of when you're not there.
Yeah, it's so big. And how much does social media play into the role for you to figure out if they're trustworthy or inappropriate conversations, if you will, or inappropriate, maybe lifestyle?
Yeah.
How much does that play into
Yeah.
when you make choices?
So we actually dive pretty deep into social media, and like background check, if you will, because we want to kind of see what that personal life is as well. And although I want to understand that they have a professional life and a personal life, I understand that people go out and they'll have a drink, or they'll go with their friends or with their boyfriend or whomever. But you want to make sure that you're always honestly having a professional presence on social media. So if you're posting a photo of you drinking a cocktail, that's fine. If you're hammered falling over, that's not fine. You don't really want to kind of showcase that, because there's always someone that's watching your social media, and these bigger brands, they dive way, way deeper into what your personal life is, because they want someone that's going to represent their brand in the best possible way. And so really kind of just taking into account like what you're putting out there to showcase. Now, that's not say you can't do that or live your life or whatever it is, but I would almost refrain from kind of showcasing some of those things, because you really kind of want to make sure that you're presenting yourself in a professional manner, and that you are showcasing that character. And so that's kind of a big thing is social media. And I think a lot of people kind of forget about that, and they will post certain things, and I'm like, guys, be careful, because you just never know who can kind of see these type of things, really. And I will say, not even so much with my current team at all. Like I said, my team is amazing. But again, that was another thing I had an issue with in the past, and so that's just kind of another thing to kind of take in consideration.
It's true. Your systems become a list of all your screw ups and what you've allowed in your company.
It really does. But I mean, honestly, you also need to go through those experiences to kind of get out on that other side, and so, like I said, I have a really great team now, but had I not have gone through all of that, I might not have that team now, and so you really have to kind of go through those experiences to come out the other side,
Yeah. Kiss a few frogs, as they say before, right? Kiss a few frogs. So I love this because I have felt the need to get some sort of training in my schools on what professional conduct looks like on social media, from Snapchat to TikTok to all the above, all the things, right? And so define professional conduct again, because I think this is really important for our future professionals to hear, and new grads, because I think a lot of people are not exactly where they want to be financially, so to speak. And I believe this could be the hindrance, right? And so it's not the hindrance, but if that is what you're doing with your time, you won't be successful. And so let's look and see. It kind of tells me this is what someone does with their time. And so how they invest in themselves. Can you talk about that a little bit, what professional conduct actually looks like?
Yes. And so I will say, so when I graduated cosmetology school, I was 20 or 21. So I was really getting right into that time where all of my friends were going to the bar, going to the club, and like doing all those things. I didn't do any of them. I spent a lot of my free time watching education videos and just kind of playing with my mannequin heads and kind of doing different techniques, making lists of different goals and things like that. And so if you want to be successful, you have to put in the work to be successful. And that does come with sacrifice. And so I didn't spend a lot of my time at the bars or at the clubs or out at 3 a.m. It just wasn't something that I was interested in, because I so much more was interested in the future that I wanted to create for myself. And I think so often people see certain individuals on social media that have a lot of followers, or they work with a lot of brands, or they're an educator, or they look like they make all this money and they want to have that, but so little of them want to have that journey to get there. And I think that's what's so important, is they think that that's an overnight success, and it's not. That's years and years in the making. That's years and years of sacrifice and years of missing out on something that you would want to do more, so that you can get just one step closer to your dream goal. And so I think that's, how you use that free time is a huge portion of it. And that's not to say that you should burn yourself out and not do anything fun ever. But I mean, I skipped going out with a couple girlfriends last night because I wanted to do some stuff for work. And so it really is just kind of a give and take. It really just comes down to what it is that you want and how much effort are you willing to put in to kind of get there. And so as a result, because I don't really have those experiences, I don't showcase those experiences. I don't have on my social media, I'm in a club or I'm like hammered or anything like that. I don't have an interest in that, because I have more of an interest in where my journey is taking me. And I think really sometimes when you're this young too, that is kind of what all your friends are doing, and that's an influence there. But I think it's really just important to kind of figure out where you want your own journey to take you, and really the sacrifices that you're willing to make to get there. And like I said, these bigger brands and these bigger companies, they really do dive deep into social media. So it really is important to kind of be very mindful of what you're posting, and what you're kind of showcasing for the world, because it's out there. These people see it. And so it's really kind of important to be mindful of all of that.
Yeah. And I think it just goes back to, because they've always lived that lifestyle, they think it is professional. And so it's almost like learning a whole new language for themselves because they aren't aware, right? It goes back to that awareness. And so that's really big. And I think the other thing to kind of bring to point too is professional language on social media, and not bashing people or other brands or other companies. And like, and I always look at, are they positive? Because I want a positive, nice person on my team. I don't want someone that's always negative or posting, crazy stuff, if you will. And what does that look like? And I'm almost at the point, Caidy, where I'm like, okay, this is what an unprofessional post looks like, and this is what a professional post looks like. Because I almost feel like I almost need to spell it out at this point, because they're looking at me with like, 5 eyes, like, I don't understand what you're saying, And so can you talk a little bit more about that too? Because, kind of like what you're engaged in, politically as well too, like just, because it's like, man, they kind of got a lot of drama going on. I don't really want them bringing that drama on our team. Talk about that too.
I
Mhm.
think, and so when I had said it previously about kind of researching who it is that you want to work with, really kind of learning about that brand and seeing what they normally post and what
Yeah,
their professionalism
that's
is.
good.
I think that
Yeah,
with that, there are a lot of like political posts, or there's just a lot of controversy posts. And
yeah,
I think really kind of being mindful of just those conversations you're having on social media is so important, because if you're putting that out there, those, if that salon, for an example, that you're interested in working with, if you know that that is not really what their vision is and what their mission is, they're not going to want to really kind of entertain the idea of bringing you on their team. They're not going to want to have that drama, or have just kind of all that like bickering in a sense. They're going to want to have something that is going to want to keep a more professional presence on social media. And so I think even not even necessarily even the stuff that you're posting as far as like a photo or a video, but even the conversations that you're having, the comments that you're having, or the posts that you're liking. I think really kind of be mindful of all of that. And I think it kind of goes back to habits too. Like if that is something that you've always kind of been interested in, then that takes a little bit of work to kind of rehabit that, and figure out how to kind of rewire that in a sense. But I really think that just to be mindful of what it is that you're commenting on, what you're posting on, just those conversations in general, because, I have also had in the past where there's certain conversations that I see on social media and I'm like, all right, like we can't do this. And that kind of goes into conversations with the salon, that's also something that we personally don't bring into the salon. There's certain topics that we just don't talk about because we want everybody to feel comfortable. We don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. And sometimes you can't help when your specific client has an opinion or they have something that they want to talk about, and they start bringing it up. And that's up to you to kind of redirect that energy, and redirect that conversation, because it's not just about whatever conversation you two are having, but it's about the 5 other stylists in there, the 5 other clients in there, and really making sure that everybody is feeling comfortable within that space, and they're going to want to come back, because again, that goes back on experience.
so big. I love this so much. So Katie, as we start to wind down on this, I wish we could go for hours because this is such a great conversation, great topics that I think so many people are going to just love this interview. As a salon owner, I've watched you from a distance, and what I love about you is you always stay optimistic. You always stay as a possibilist, if you will, someone
Mhm.
that's like, okay, this is workable. We can do this. Like, let's make this happen instead of
Mhm.
becoming bitter. And a lot of salon owners today are really bitter and they're really angry. They'll have a salon walkout. I've had two salon walkouts, so I understand.
Mhm.
One time I got bitter, the second time I didn't. I stayed in the
Mhm.
possibilist mode, and so I understand both ends, right?
Mhm.
And so they're very frustrated. They're frustrated with their team. They're mad at themselves. They're mad at their dog, and you can
Mhm.
feel it and you can sense it. How
Yeah.
do you stay in that possibilist mode as a leader, and talk to salon owners why they need to do that as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from my own experience is that journeys change.
Mhm.
And my goal is to be a positive aspect within that journey. So I want to have always been able to help and do whatever I can throughout that journey. And if your journey changes and you want to shift avenues, then I believe that that is on me as a business owner to understand and respect that. Not everybody is going to want to stay with me for the rest of their career. Maybe they want to have a salon of their own. Maybe they want to move out of state. Maybe they just want to go to a different salon down the street because they think it could be a better fit for you. I think what's really important is realizing that it's not always about us. Sometimes it's not necessarily something that we did. Sometimes it's just someone else's own journey changed. For me, the salon that I was at, it wasn't necessarily that that salon did anything. It was that my journey changed. I wanted to do more weddings. I wanted to do braiding. I wanted to do editorial shoots. That wasn't available there. So I wanted to kind of venture somewhere else. And so I think becoming bitter is very, very easily done. And I certainly have in the past too, where I'm like, why did this person leave? Or what did I do? Or what happened? And I think trying to just keep those conversations open. And I actually have it within my handbook. And I always ask before my team leaves, like, what was your reason for leaving? Or what, what could I do? Kind of receive that feedback. And sometimes the feedback is hard. Sometimes it is something that you did, or maybe you didn't show up enough for something, or you didn't provide enough for something. So sometimes it does fall on you in a sense, but receiving that feedback is only going to help you progress forward in the future better. And so even if they're like, you didn't provide enough clients, or you weren't here enough, or whatever the case is, still kind of take that and say, okay, what can I do now to transition this for future? How can I improve for future? And so I think really just trying to stay positive with it, and just kind of understanding that, some relationships are meant to last for a lifetime, and some are meant to last for a season. And that's not necessarily anything that we always do wrong on our end. And sometimes we feel too, like, I provided all the clients, or I provided all the services, or I provided all the products. Sometimes we are just not able to please everyone. Same as with our clients. Sometimes our clients leave because we just don't end up being a right fit for them. And we don't wonder, don't know why. And we stay up at night and we're like, man, I don't know why Susie doesn't come and see me anymore. Like, I can't figure this out. And so I think it's just kind of not being too hard on ourselves, and just kind of understanding that from every experience, we can have a takeaway from that. And even if you only have one takeaway, that's still a positive experience. And so I really think not getting so hard on ourselves. Business owner life is very hard. It's very, very difficult. It's a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of trying and, trial and errors. And so I think really just kind of giving ourselves some grace that, okay, this person was with me for 5 years. They're not with me anymore, but this was a positive experience, and I think, and I always tell my team, like, if you ever decide to leave, of course, I'll be sad. I'll be heartbroken because I love them all, but I just want my experience with them to be positive. I want them to look back and be like, I loved working with Caidy. She was a great leader. I loved the team. That was a positive experience. That is my goal. Because again, I don't want to burn any bridges either. I want, in some form, if someone needs me years down the road, I want them to reach out. I want them to know that that door is still open, because I want to still give back to my community, even if for some reason our relationship has changed a bit.
So big. This is why I love you so much, because you just really have a heart for people, and
Mhm.
which I think takes us full circle as we start to end this out, because I said being in business for the right reasons. And
Mhm.
so talk to that salon owner right now, why you need to be in business for the right reasons. What are the right reasons, first and
Mhm.
foremost, that you see from your perspective as well too, and how can they kind of, develop those right reasons so that they don't leave the industry bitter, right?
Mhm.
And don't, stay as a bitter owner for the rest
Mhm.
of their lives too, because I've been watching that from a distance as well too.
Mhm. I think the biggest thing is when you join this industry, specifically as a business owner, it is the business of helping people, and it is the business of inspiring and trying to help others kind of reach their goals and dreams. And so I think that it's truthfully something where if you want to help those individuals kind of reach those goals, and that is the right reason. If you just want to be here because you want to make a ton of money, or you want to go grab coffee and you think that's the highlight of your day because you don't have to take clients, or if you think it's going to be a very like fun thing, like that's not it at all. It's really hard. There's a huge overhead. It's not
Mhm.
a quote unquote cheap industry to be in when you're a salon owner. And so I really think it comes down to sharing your passion with others and wanting to help inspire other individuals, and really just trying to help them reach their goals and dreams. And like I said, no one's going to open up a door for you like you'll open it for yourself. But when you're just starting out, especially, you don't even know what those doors are. You don't know where those doors are located. You don't know any of those things. It's very overwhelming getting into the salon world after cosmetology, because then it's like a whole nother entity to learn. It's like cosmetology school, you learned all the services, all the sanitation, and all of those things. And now you're in the salon world, and you're trying to learn how to build a clientele, and how to maintain the clientele, and how to get recognized by brands, or whatever the case is. And I really think it's our job as the business owner to kind of lead by example, and to really kind of help showcase it to them that if you want this goal, you can get it. And this is this is a good path to take, or these are some good resources, or, this was my journey. So maybe adjust it to this, and this could potentially help you. So I really think keeping that open door with your professionals that are on your team, and really just trying to be that light for them, because if you came where I did, where you didn't have that support in the beginning, sometimes having that light is really helpful, and it's more impactful than what you would think it is too.
Yeah, so big. I love this so much. So as we end this out, Caidy, what have you been wanting to tell other salon owners that they need to do in 2023 to go to the next level?
I think just really keeping an open mind that this industry is really evolving. I think too often we get very set in what we are comfortable in, and we think, okay, this has worked for the last 5 years. I'm just going to keep it going like this. But maybe that there's something else that we can do. Maybe there's another way to evolve. Maybe that there's another way to reach more clients. And really kind of listening to your team. I feel like so often during our meetings, I'm like, okay, what do you girls have for me? What's on your mind? What are you thinking about? Because it's not just me and my business, it's me and my team and my business. And so I don't think of it like, okay, these are my 5 ideas, we're going to do all of this. I'm like, okay, what do you have? What do you have? What are you thinking? Like, let's combine this all together. What can we do to move forward? How can we pass clients from one to another to like get busier? What new items can we offer? Should we raise prices? So our meetings are very open discussion in the sense of what do we all feel like can we do to progress forward in the most positive way. And I think that's a big thing, is sometimes salon owners are like, this is my salon, so this is my idea, and this is what's happening, and if you don't like it, that's it. And I think we really need to kind of turn that and realize that although maybe this person is a quote unquote employee, this is your team. Like your team is only going to be as good as you are. They're only going to be as impactful as you are. They're only going to be as positive as you are. So if you're coming to work with this negative energy and you're like, we're going to do these things, and your team is not inspired by it, but you're going to do it anyways, you're not going to have a good result by that. What your team is inspired by is what is going to generate that positive result. So I really think just kind of listening and learning and taking that feedback into consideration to see, okay, how do you want to evolve as a team? And I promise if you do that, your team is going to be so much happier, and they're going to respect you so much more for allowing them that freedom to be creative and not just, okay, this is my station, this is where I work every day. They're going to know like, no, I can pass off ideas, and we're going to, bring in this new color line, or we're going to start this product, or we're going to start this service, really kind of having just really those open discussions, I think is going to lead just to honestly, not only greater success, but just a better relationship with your team overall. And I will say too, because we are so open, our clients recognize that. Our clients come in, and it's not just, this is my client, like this is a salon client, and they talk to my manager, and they talk to this girl and that girl, and they get their brows done over here. And so it's really, everybody knows each other. We really have a very much homey feel. And even if you have a 50-person salon, you can still generate that experience. It really just kind of comes down to whatever energy you're bringing in, that's what your energy, your team is going to have, and the energy your clients are going to have. So it starts with you.
1000%. This is so good. I love how you brought it back to the open discussion. And this next masterclass we're doing is Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And that's all you did, was you spewed them out. So you can tell it comes naturally as a leader. And so until it comes naturally as a leader, have it written down. These are the questions you're going to ask your team. And so that you can actually make it a team, because it's not really freedom from you that people want. They want freedom to innovate, to be creative. And so we as a leader have that sacred responsibility to be able to do. So Caidy, you're awesome. I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. Thank you for giving back to our next level salon leadership community. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I always appreciate chatting with you. And hopefully I'm able to just kind of share and inspire, even if just one person, then that's my goal.
You're amazing. And people find you on Instagram and Facebook, Caidy Create, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
With a D, Caidy with a D.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Take care, Caidy. We appreciate you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much for having me.